Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein's convicted accomplice, is about to face Congress for the first time since her arrest. The woman who spent decades procuring underage girls for one of the most powerful pedophile rings in history is scheduled to appear before the House Oversight Committee on Monday, February 9, 2026. And what happens in that room could bring down some of the most powerful people in America. But here's the twist that changes everything. Maxwell is expected to plead the Fifth Amendment and refuse to answer questions, which means this entire deposition might be nothing more than political theater. Or it could be the opening move in a chess game that ends with criminal referrals for former presidents, billionaires, and global elites who thought they'd escaped justice. Because the real story isn't just about Maxwell appearing before Congress. It's about who she's protecting, what she knows, and why the House Oversight Committee just forced Bill and Hillary Clinton to agree to testify under threat of criminal contempt charges. This goes deeper than anyone imagined, and what you're about to learn will change everything you thought you knew about the Epstein scandal. Let me break down exactly what's happening, who's involved, and why this matters more than any other congressional investigation happening right now. Monday morning, February 9th, 2026, at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, Ghislaine Maxwell will appear virtually before the House Oversight Committee from her prison cell in Texas, where she's serving a 20-year sentence for sex trafficking minors. This isn't a public hearing, this is a closed-door deposition. That means no cameras, no live stream, no public access, just committee lawyers, congressional staff, and Maxwell on a video screen from prison asking her questions that could implicate dozens of powerful people. The committee can choose to release the video footage later, but they're not required to. So everything that happens in that room could stay secret, or it could be released strategically to maximum political effect. Chairman James Comer announced this deposition during a meeting about holding Bill and Hillary Clinton in contempt of Congress for refusing to testify about their connections to Jeffrey Epstein. Let that sink in. A congressional committee was preparing to hold a former president and a former Secretary of State in criminal contempt, referring them to the Department of Justice for prosecution because they refused to answer questions about their relationship with a convicted pedophile. That's not normal. That's not partisan political theater. That's a committee chairman willing to use the most serious legal weapon Congress has because he believes the Clintons are hiding something about Epstein. Comer said last month, "We've been trying to get her in for a deposition. Our lawyers have been saying that she's going to plead the Fifth, but we have nailed down a date, February 9, where Ghislaine Maxwell will be deposed by this committee." Notice what he said. His lawyers told him Maxwell would plead the Fifth. He knows she's not going to answer questions, but he's deposing her anyway. Why? Because putting her on the record pleading the Fifth to specific questions is valuable. It establishes what she's refusing to talk about. It creates a legal record, and it puts pressure on other witnesses who might be less willing to take the Fifth. The Clintons initially refused to appear. They ignored subpoenas. Their lawyers fought the committee. Comer's team prepared contempt proceedings. The full House of Representatives was scheduled to vote on referring Bill and Hillary Clinton to the DOJ for criminal prosecution. And then, just days before that vote, the Clintons suddenly agreed to testify. Why the sudden change? What made them decide that appearing before Congress was better than facing criminal contempt charges? Either their lawyers convinced them they'd lose the contempt fight and face worse consequences, or something changed that made cooperation more attractive than resistance. My guess? Maxwell's scheduled deposition spooked them. If Maxwell starts talking, even a little, the Clintons want to get their version on the record first. They want to control the narrative before Maxwell potentially contradicts them. Let's talk about who Ghislaine Maxwell actually is and why her testimony matters so much. Maxwell is the daughter of Robert Maxwell, a British media mogul who died under mysterious circumstances in 1991. He allegedly fell off his yacht, but many believe he was murdered because of his connections to intelligence agencies. Robert Maxwell had documented ties to Israeli intelligence, British intelligence, and the KGB. He was a spy operating as a businessman. Ghislaine grew up in that world of intelligence, power, and secrets. After her father's death, she moved to New York and somehow became romantically involved with Jeffrey Epstein, a mysterious financier whose source of wealth nobody could quite explain. Epstein claimed to manage money for billionaires, but nobody could identify his clients. He had massive wealth, but no visible means of generating it. He had connections to intelligence agencies, but no official role. He had access to the most powerful people in the world, despite having no clear expertise or value to offer them. And Ghislaine Maxwell became his partner in every sense. She wasn't just his girlfriend. She was his recruiter, his organizer, his madam. She found underage girls, groomed them, delivered them to Epstein and his powerful friends, and helped cover up the abuse. The Department of Justice said at her sentencing that Maxwell enticed and groomed minor girls to be abused in multiple ways. That's government language, for she ran a child sex trafficking operation for decades. She was convicted in December 2021 and sentenced to 20 years in federal prison. She's currently serving that sentence in a Texas facility. And now Congress wants to know what she knows about everyone who participated in Epstein's operation. Because here's the thing, Epstein and Maxwell didn't run this operation alone. They had clients, powerful clients, famous clients, clients who flew on Epstein's private jet to his private island, clients whose names appear in flight logs, guest books, and phone records. Some of those names have been made public through various lawsuits and document releases. Bill Clinton flew on Epstein's plane at least 26 times, according to flight logs. Prince Andrew was photographed with one of Epstein's victims and later settled a lawsuit with her for millions. Donald Trump partied with Epstein in the 1990s and was photographed with him multiple times, though Trump claims he banned Epstein from Mar-a-Lago after learning about his behavior. But those are just the names we know. Maxwell knows all the names. She knows who visited the island. She knows who participated in the abuse. She knows who knew what was happening and looked the other way. She knows everything, and that's why her refusal to testify is so significant. She's not pleading the fifth because she's worried about incriminating herself. She's already been convicted and sentenced. The Fifth Amendment protects you from self-incrimination. But Maxwell has already been incriminated. She's already in prison. So why is she still pleading the fifth? Two possible reasons. First, she might be worried about additional charges. Even though she's been convicted of sex trafficking, there could be other crimes she participated in that prosecutors haven't charged yet. Pleading the fifth protects her from revealing information that could lead to additional prosecutions. Second, and more likely, she's protecting other people. She made a deal, or she has expectations of a deal. She believes that if she stays quiet, powerful people will take care of her. Maybe they'll work to get her sentence reduced. Maybe they'll ensure she's comfortable in prison. Maybe they've promised to take care of her family financially. Or maybe she's afraid. Maybe she's seen what happens to people who talk about Epstein's operation. Epstein himself died in federal custody under extremely suspicious circumstances that the official story claims was suicide, but that many people believe was murder. If Maxwell starts naming names, if she starts providing details about who did what to which underage girls, does she really believe she'll survive prison? Or does she think she'll end up like Epstein, found dead in her cell with the cameras mysteriously malfunctioning? Chairman Comer has been trying to get Maxwell to testify for months. His team has been negotiating with her lawyers since at least last summer. In August, they had a deposition scheduled, but her lawyer asked for a delay until after the Supreme Court decided whether to hear her appeal. The Supreme Court declined to hear her case in October, which meant her conviction was final. No more appeals, no more legal options. She's going to serve her full sentence unless she gets a pardon or a sentence reduction for cooperation. So Comer's team went back to her lawyers and said, "Time's up, no more delays. You're appearing before this committee," and they set the date, February 9th, 2026, tomorrow. Now let's talk about what questions Maxwell is likely to be asked, because even if she pleads the fifth, the questions themselves tell us what Congress is investigating. Question 1. Who visited Epstein's island and when? There are flight logs showing who flew on Epstein's plane, but not everyone who flew to the island is documented. Maxwell kept records. She knows exactly who visited and how often. Question 2. What happened on the island? What activities took place? Were minors present during these visits? Did visitors participate in illegal activities with minors? Question 3. Did any visitors have knowledge that Epstein was sexually abusing minors? Did anyone see abuse happening and fail to report it? Did anyone actively participate in the abuse? Question 4. What was Bill Clinton's relationship with Epstein? How many times did he visit the island? Was Hillary Clinton ever present during these visits? Did the Clintons know about Epstein's criminal behavior? Question 5. What was Donald Trump's relationship with Epstein? The public record shows they were friends in the 1990s, but Trump claims he cut ties after learning about Epstein's behavior. Is that true? Did Trump ever visit the island? Question 6. What was Prince Andrew's involvement? There are already public allegations and a settled lawsuit, but Maxwell knows the full extent of his participation. Question 7. Who else? What other powerful people participated in Epstein's operation? What celebrities? What politicians? What foreign leaders? What intelligence operatives? Question 8. Was this operation connected to intelligence agencies? There have been persistent rumors that Epstein was running a blackmail operation, using underage girls to compromise powerful people and then leveraging that information for intelligence purposes. Was Maxwell aware of any such operation? Question 9. How was the operation financed? Where did Epstein's money actually come from? Who was funding this operation and why? Question 10. What happened to all the evidence? Epstein had cameras everywhere. He recorded everything. Where are those tapes? Who has them now? What do they show? Maxwell will almost certainly plead the fifth to every single one of these questions, but the act of asking them in a formal congressional deposition creates a legal record. It establishes what Congress is investigating, and it puts pressure on other witnesses. Because here's what happens next. After Maxwell pleads the fifth, Congress will call other witnesses. And those witnesses can't claim they don't know what Congress is asking about. Maxwell's deposition establishes the scope of the investigation. Bill and Hillary Clinton have agreed to testify. What are they going to say when asked about their relationship with Epstein? They can't claim ignorance anymore. The questions have been asked. Maxwell has been deposed. Now, the Clintons have to answer. Can the Clintons plead the fifth? Technically, yes. The Fifth Amendment applies to everyone, not just convicted criminals. If answering a question would tend to incriminate you, you can refuse to answer. But politically, the Clintons pleading the fifth would be devastating. Imagine the headlines. Bill and Hillary Clinton plead Fifth Amendment when asked about Jeffrey Epstein. That would be the end of whatever political legacy they have left. So the Clintons probably can't plead the fifth without destroying themselves politically, which means they have to answer questions, which means they have to tell a story that's consistent with the known facts, but doesn't incriminate them. That's an incredibly difficult tightrope to walk. Bill Clinton flew on Epstein's plane 26 documented times. That's not disputed. Flight logs prove it. So Clinton can't deny the relationship existed, but he can try to characterize it as innocent. I flew on his plane for legitimate travel. I didn't know about his criminal behavior. I was never on the island. I never saw anything inappropriate. The problem is, can he prove that? Does Maxwell's testimony contradict his claims? Do flight logs show he flew to the island? Do other witnesses remember seeing him there? This is why Maxwell's deposition matters, even if she pleads the fifth. It's the first domino. Once she's on the record refusing to answer questions, everyone else has to decide, do I cooperate and tell my version of events, or do I fight and look like I'm hiding something? Let's talk about the political implications of this investigation, because it cuts across party lines in a way that's extremely rare. Epstein had connections to powerful people in both parties. Bill Clinton is a Democrat, Donald Trump is a Republican, Prince Andrew is British royalty. This isn't a partisan scandal, it's an elite scandal. That makes it politically dangerous for everyone. Democrats can't use this to attack Republicans because their own people are implicated. Republicans can't use this to attack Democrats because their own people are implicated. The only people who benefit from a full investigation are populists who want to take down the entire elite establishment. People who believe that powerful people in both parties are corrupt and compromised. This is why establishment figures in both parties have been reluctant to push this investigation too hard. Nobody wants to open Pandora's box because nobody knows who else might be inside. But Chairman Comer seems willing to go there. He's a Republican investigating a Democratic former president. But he's also subpoenaed documents related to Trump's connections to Epstein. He's trying to run a nonpartisan investigation into elite corruption. That's politically risky. If he goes too hard after Democrats, he looks partisan. If he goes too hard after Republicans, including Trump, his own party turns on him. He has to walk a very narrow line, investigate real crimes without appearing to target people for political reasons. Maxwell's deposition is the perfect way to do that. He's not selectively targeting anyone. He's deposing the one person who knows everything about everyone. Whatever comes out of that deposition, he can claim he's just following the evidence. Now let's talk about what's in the Epstein files that were released in December, because that context matters for understanding why this investigation is happening now. The Department of Justice released a trove of Epstein documents on December 19, 2025, following President Trump's signature on the Epstein Files Transparency Act in November. That's significant. Trump signed legislation requiring the release of Epstein files despite his own connections to Epstein. Either Trump believes the files won't implicate him seriously, or he's willing to take the political hit for transparency. The released documents included flight logs, phone records, calendars, and various investigative materials. Some names were redacted to protect ongoing investigations or innocent parties, but many names were revealed. The documents confirmed what many people already suspected. Epstein had extensive connections to powerful people across politics, business, entertainment, and academia. The scope of his network was breathtaking. But here's what the documents didn't include. Testimony from Maxwell. She's been in custody since 2020. She was convicted in 2021. She could have cooperated with prosecutors and provided testimony about everyone involved in exchange for a reduced sentence. She didn't. She went to trial, got convicted, and got 20 years. She chose prison over cooperation. That tells you something about either how loyal she is to the people she's protecting, or how afraid she is of what might happen if she talks. Now, Congress is trying to get what prosecutors couldn't: Maxwell's testimony about who was involved in Epstein's operation. The difference is that congressional immunity is different from prosecutorial immunity. If Maxwell testifies before Congress and receives immunity for that testimony, prosecutors generally can't use that testimony against her in criminal proceedings. But that immunity doesn't extend to other crimes she might reveal. If she testifies about other people's crimes, those people can still be prosecuted, even if she can't be prosecuted for the testimony itself. So there's actually a path where Maxwell could testify, implicate powerful people, and not face additional consequences herself. Congress could grant her immunity, she could tell everything she knows, and prosecutors could use that information to go after everyone else. Is that what's happening here? Is Congress offering Maxwell a deal? We don't know. The negotiations between her lawyers and the committee are confidential, but it's possible that Maxwell's appearance isn't just a formality where she pleads the Fifth. It's possible she's been offered immunity and is going to actually testify. If that happens, if Maxwell starts talking, this becomes the biggest political scandal in American history. Bigger than Watergate, bigger than Iran-Contra, bigger than anything. Because she can implicate sitting members of Congress, former presidents, current government officials, foreign leaders, and some of the wealthiest people in the world. The fallout would be unprecedented. Criminal prosecutions, resignations, international diplomatic crises, financial market chaos as billionaires get arrested. That's why everyone is watching this deposition so closely. That's why the Clintons suddenly decided to cooperate after months of resistance. That's why this matters more than almost any other story happening in Washington right now. Let's talk about what happens if Maxwell actually does plead the Fifth and refuses to answer questions. First, Congress can vote to hold her in contempt, just like they threatened with the Clintons. But she's already in prison, so contempt charges don't have much leverage. What are they going to do? Add more prison time. Second, Congress can grant her immunity and compel her testimony. If they grant immunity, she can't plead the Fifth anymore, because the Fifth Amendment only protects against self-incrimination. If you have immunity, you can't incriminate yourself, so you can't plead the Fifth. This is the nuclear option. If Congress grants Maxwell immunity and compels her testimony, she has to talk. If she refuses, she can be held in contempt and face additional criminal charges for obstruction. Third, Congress can release the video of her pleading the Fifth and let public pressure do the work. Imagine the headlines. Ghislaine Maxwell refuses to name Epstein's clients. That creates public demand for more aggressive investigation. Fourth, Congress can use her refusal to testify as justification for subpoenaing more documents, more witnesses, and more evidence. If Maxwell won't talk, they'll find other people who will. My prediction? Maxwell pleads the fifth to most questions, but answers a few carefully selected ones that don't incriminate anyone important. She gives Congress just enough to claim she cooperated without actually revealing anything meaningful. Then Congress uses that limited cooperation to justify continuing the investigation and calling more witnesses. The Clintons testify. Other people connected to Epstein get subpoenaed. The investigation continues for months or years. Eventually, either someone breaks and provides real testimony, or the investigation fizzles out without any major revelations and everyone claims victory. But there's an outside chance, a small possibility, that Maxwell actually talks, that she's decided prison isn't worth protecting people who let her take the fall, that she's angry at being abandoned by the powerful people she served for decades, that she wants revenge. If that happens, if Maxwell decides to burn it all down and tell everything she knows, American politics will never be the same. Because the Epstein scandal isn't just about one billionaire pedophile. It's about a system where powerful people could abuse children for decades while law enforcement, media, and political institutions looked the other way. It's about how wealth and connections can buy immunity from consequences. It's about how elite networks protect their own even when crimes against children are involved. And it's about whether our institutions are capable of holding powerful people accountable, or whether justice only applies to regular people while the elite operate by different rules. Maxwell's testimony could answer those questions, or it could prove that the system is too corrupt to ever hold the powerful accountable. We're about to find out which one is true. Tomorrow morning at 10 a.m., Ghislaine Maxwell appears before Congress. Will she plead the fifth and protect the powerful people she served? Or will she finally tell the truth about who was involved in Jeffrey Epstein's criminal enterprise? The whole world is watching, and whatever happens in that room will determine whether justice is possible when the accused are the most powerful people on earth.